I'd like to welcome everybody here on this foggy, drizzly morning. We're glad that you're out, and we're looking forward to our guest speaker today. Brother Bill Miller is with us to discuss the Malawi relief effort. I'm looking forward to learning a lot more about this. I just know just a little bit from what Rico has told me and some things that I've heard, so I'm really looking forward to getting into the nuts and bolts of this. Bill tells me we met several years ago at Ray and Patty McCullough's wedding, and I'll have to trust him because I don't remember, and that's my fault. I'm sorry, Bill, but I think I'm unforgettable too sometimes. But that's the way it works sometimes. But we're glad to have Bill with us today, and before we begin, I'm going to turn this over to him. But before we do, let's begin with a word of opening prayer. If you bow with me, please. Our Father God in heaven, we thank you for this another Lord's Day to come out, a time and an opportunity we can come together and to worship you in spirit and in truth. We're so thankful we have the opportunity to do that and live in a nation where laws have not been enacted to make that difficult, if not impossible. We're so happy that we are able to do so without fear, and we hope and pray that such will continue for many generations to come. We ask your blessings on us as we go throughout the events of today. It's our hope and prayer all that we do is in accordance to your will and pleasing in your sight. We're so thankful for the speaker who has come our way this day, Brother Bill. We ask that you would bless him, give him that ready recall of the things that he wishes to present to us, and that we may learn about the relief effort across the world. We ask that you would bless each and every one of us in this congregation and keep us strong and healthy. For those who are sick among us, we ask a special prayer that you would give them strength and encouragement, and that if it be your will, restore them to the portion of health they do so much need and desire. We ask that you would bless us in every effort that we put forth to expand the borders of your kingdom. It's our hope and prayer that souls will be reached, souls will be saved, and that you will be able to see an increase in the number of the subjects of the kingdom of Christ. We ask that you would bless us in life and save us in death. And when it comes our time to leave this world, we ask for that peaceful hour that we might exchange worlds to be with you in eternity. All of these favors and blessings and thanks we give in the name of our Savior and our Lord, Jesus Christ. Amen. And we'll turn this all over to Brother Bill Miller.
I'm glad to, can you hear me? That sounds like it's coming out pretty loud and clear right at the moment. I am thrilled to be here today. I've lived in Indiana for the past 45 years. If you've ever been out west, it's flat. All there is corn and soybeans. Love your state of West Virginia. Because you want to know why? That's where I'm from. I am from West Virginia. Matter of fact, I was born in New Martinsville, but my dad and mom at that time lived in a place called Weirton. And that's where I grew up as a young boy. I went to Weirton Heights up until the first grade, lived on Thurman Street. I don't know whether anybody knows where Thurman Street's at, but that's where I was raised up as a young boy. We moved to New Manchester, and we started attending the church in Chester, West Virginia, where Frank Higginbotham preached, graduated from Oak Glen High School, went to work in the mill, worked at Weirton Steel for 2 years, and I decided I want to do something different. My dad worked there. My brother worked there, my uncles worked there, my cousins worked there, but I wanted to do something different with my life. So I went to preacher school in Memphis, Tennessee, and graduated. And then I decided, where do I go? Do I stay in the Bible Belt? And I consider West Virginia as Bible Belt because you have churches of Christ in many of your towns. Well, I started looking out, and I tried out for a church in Brookston, Indiana, and I got the job, and that's where I've been ever since. But I haven't been preaching the whole time. As a regular minister, I went to work at Purdue University, and I've retired from Purdue, but I've been preaching and teaching my entire life, using the education that I got at the Memphis School of Preaching. But I decided to go to Indiana because you go from Indianapolis to Chicago, and that's where I'm located. There's very few churches of Christ. But I decided to stay there where it was a mission field, where I could do some good. But anyway, let's get to the topic of the day, the Malawi Project. I didn't learn of the Malawi Project until about 3 years ago. After I heard of the Malawi Project, it stuck in my heart, and I can't get it out. I have shed tears over what I hear, what I see that is going on in this country. It's touched my heart. It's in my heart, and I believe till the day I die, this is what I'm going to be supporting, what I'm going to be doing. I would say from the last 3 years that every day I work on the Malawi Project, along with preaching and teaching and doing other things. Even when I was laying in the hospital bed with cancer, I had a nurse, a black nurse, a guy that was from Africa. And guess what we talked about? We talked about the Malawi Project, the conditions that are in Africa. Now this morning, I'm going to talk about some things that we generally don't hear about when we talk about helping people across the seas. Generally, we hear about them needing food and clothes. There's more to it than that. And I hope to talk about that this morning. Now, along the way, there's going to be a lot of questions. Don't be upset if I tell you we need to move on, okay? If you ask a question, raise your hand. I'll try to address it, but there's a lot of material I'd like to cover in this short period of time. What time are we over? 10 after, 20 after, 25 after. How about that? Okay, very good. But anyway, Malawi Project. Here's their mission statement. It focuses on helping the African nation of Malawi in the areas of agriculture, education, medicine, food, famine relief, community development, and the advancement of the church and the community leadership. Now, this project is unlike anything that I have ever seen anywhere. There's 3 things that I want to start out with that got my attention. Number 1, when a woman in Malawi, Africa, now Malawi, Africa is one of the poorest nations in the world. The 3rd poorest, okay? So try to get this into your mind. A young lady that goes to have a child, if she would go to a clinic or maybe one of their hospitals, I want you to visualize this. She has to take her own supplies. Now, I don't think there's a soul in here that had ever been in that position. But can you imagine that? There's a group of ladies that have come up with a solution to this problem. And this is the first point that got my attention. The ladies at the congregation where I'm attending were making these kits. And it got my attention. What are you doing? They're making these baby kits to give to the mothers in Malawi, Africa, so that when they go to have their babies, they'll have the materials to have their baby. These kits, and there's about $15 value to make up one of these kits, can save a life. What I'm holding in my hand can save a baby's life. Malawi, Africa, many of the babies die because they don't have what's in this kit. Now, what's in this kit? What you can see is a blanket, a receiving blanket. You ladies, you can see a onesie in there. You can see a hat. That's a deal breaker with a baby, keeping its head warm. There's 2 washcloths in the front side of this package. Now you turn this package around, and what do you see? Surgical gloves for the doctor and the nurse. A razor blade for cutting the cord. Clips for the umbilical cord. Soap. You see the black bag in there? That's a trash bag. You know what that trash bag's for? Sanitary conditions when the baby's born. There's another pad in here. The blue pad is what the baby is put on after it's born. This got my attention. In my sermons today, I want to talk about how rich we are. And there's some lessons that we've been given by Jesus I'm going to talk about some of these lessons about what we have and what we're doing with what we have. But I want you to think about this. Now, I've got this kit here, and I just happened to bring some others with me. And you can go ahead and pass them around and take a look at these kits. And I'm going to get some in the back here, and you can what I'm proposing today is how to help the Malawi Project, or how to help the Malawi people. The church here at Weirton Heights may decide not to get involved in this. That's fine. But what I'm going to be doing is just giving you some ideas on how you might be able to help with the people in Malawi, Africa. How you might help save a life. Now, say you want to get some women together and make these kits. That would be great. Or maybe you want to simply donate some items. Maybe you want to donate some razor blades. Maybe you want to donate some onesies. You know, however you want to do it. There's so many ways that I'm going to talk about today that the people in Malawi, Africa can be helped. Here's another point that I want to make before I continue. This project is to make the people in Malawi, Africa, self-sufficient. What do I mean by that? What we see many times on TV, we see these trucks pull up and start throwing stuff out of the back of the truck to the people. That's not how this project works. Okay? We collect the materials, and we have a storeroom in Lafayette, Indiana. We collect these materials, and then we get enough materials for a trailer. You've seen the ships with the big trailers on the ships? They're 40-foot containers. That's what we fill. Okay, we take this container by ship, send it to Africa, and it goes to our warehouse in Malawi, Africa. We have a better warehouse in Malawi than we do here. But what happens when this material goes to this warehouse? It is then unloaded, and there is one man on the payroll in this project that will take this material and he'll distribute it to the people that have needs. I'm trying not to get ahead of myself, but there's just things popping into my mind that I want to make sure I cover today. Another point that I'm going to throw in right here is there is 2,000 churches of Christ in Malawi, Africa. Think about that for a moment. You don't have that many in the state of West Virginia. Malawi, Africa is about twice the size of West Virginia. But I want you to think about that. 2,000 churches of Christ. Malawi, Africa is 85% Christian. They speak, the majority of them speak English. And I just look at this and it just keeps sending chills down my spine. What all I see. There are 3 preacher schools in Malawi, Africa. But the material goes to the warehouse and he disperses it. So I'm going to get another point. Another point, go ahead, you got something, sir?
I do. According to your flyer here, it says you have teams of preachers and teachers that are there. Are they of the Church of Christ, or are there other ministries involved?
They are the church. They are the Church of Christ. That's what this whole project is. That is the Church of Christ.
Who oversees the Malawi project?
Good question. And I'll get to that right now. The question is, who oversees the Malawi project? It is not a church, but it is all Church of Christ. Okay? Like I said, there's one person, this got my attention. There's one person on the payroll in this entire project, and that's the man that runs the warehouse in Malawi, Africa. The treasurer is a volunteer. The secretary is a volunteer. The lawyer is a volunteer. All 8 board members, which are members of the Lord's church, are all volunteers, and nobody is on the payroll. The project is run by that board of 8 people. That's how the Malawi project is run. But that got my attention. You look at a lot of the programs throughout our country that take care of giving to the needy people. It's got the CEOs and so many people that's making so much money. I would say 95% of the money that is given goes directly to aid the people in Malawi, Africa.
So those contributions would be to rent the container, shipping, otherwise it's just all donations. If there's any donation monetary, it would go toward.
Yes. There's other parts of the program, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to talk about them today because of time. But they have fish farms in Malawi, teaching the people how to raise fish. There are greenhouses in Malawi, showing them how to raise crops, and we're going to talk about their climate in just a little bit. But there's other parts of the program that takes finances. Go ahead, sir.
Typically, nonprofits they'll disclose how much overhead they have and how much actual material or percentage of goods and services that actually people, their intended audience gets. What is the breakdown on this particular project, since it is a nonprofit?
It is very high, and I don't remember the percentage, but I can get that to you.
I think we would need that to be able to support and get us some idea, because that's typically, something that the men or the elders discuss.
Right. Well, today, I want you to know I'm not asking for money. Okay?
We get that.
Okay? Not asking for money, but if money comes, that's fine and dandy. But this is another part of this program that just, how does this operate? Everybody's volunteers. Now, let me talk about volunteers. Another thing that got my attention is in some of the handouts, you'll see, and I'm not a PowerPoint guy, I'm sorry, but you'll see this guy with this mobility unit for the handicap. The people in Malawi, a lot of them, are literally crawling on the ground. They don't have crutches, they don't have walkers, they have no way of being able to be mobile. Okay? These mobility units operate, instead of, you can't walk, with your hands. This is how they're propelled, by your hands. But I went one day to a factory in DeMotte, Indiana, where they make these mobility units. I found out that there's 70 employees in that factory that make these mobility units. And then I found out they're all volunteers. All 70 people have a key to the factory. All 70 people have a certain job that they do. They may be making axles, they may be painting, they may be packaging these mobility units, but all the mobility units that they make in DeMotte, Indiana, all go to Malawi, Africa. I sat back and I looked at that and I was just in awe of what they were doing. But those three things jumped out at me as I was introduced to the Malawi project, looking at that baby pack. I cried. When I first saw that baby pack, I cried, thinking, how can this be? And there's so much appreciation in Malawi for that baby pack. You know what those women do when they receive those baby packs? They get their best clothes on, they get dressed up, and they have a celebration. Now stop and think about that. We're talking about having a celebration for this. Go ahead, ma'am. No, good question. Sorry I cut you off. The question was, do the materials need to be new? No. Matter of fact, when we first started this, a lot of the receiving blankets were donated, were used. And here's the point that I try to make. Even if the receiving blanket is soiled, baby's it's still, if you didn't have a receiving blanket, would you want to use one of those? Yes. And even if it's got a little tear in it. Now, some of the things are brand new. The razor blades, yes. The gloves, yes. But like the washcloths, a lot of the women will make washcloths. They'll cut up towels and make washcloths. But the answer to your question is no, they don't all have to be new. But these three things really got my attention. I want to stress giving to the Malawi Project, and I know that we're not going to be able to complete this because it's almost 10 o'clock already. I want to say this: if you are involved in some other way of helping poor, I'm not soliciting you today to do this. If you're helping with maybe doing things for the Philippines or sending stuff to India or any other program out there, continue doing that. I encourage you to do that. Question, anybody? Somebody got a question? Well, listening to this so far, if you're like me, your hearts are touched. And we ask the question now, how can I help? I want to start right now by going through and talking about Malawi very quickly. What kind of country are we talking about? And it's different than what we've got here. Listen while I read some of these. It's one of the poorest nations in the world, the third poorest. There's no electricity in the villages. There's no running water in the villages. Some of the cities in Malawi are somewhat modernized, but they're not like what we got here in Weirden, okay? Travel is basically by foot. If you have a bicycle in Malawi, you have a car. Okay? A bicycle is a luxury. Even the lawyers and doctors in large part of Malawi, that's how they move back and forth, is by bicycles. Right now, we've got 17 bicycles in our warehouse. We're supposed to get 17 more. We've got a man in Noblesville, Indiana, a member of the church, that what he does is collects bicycles and repairs them. We also collect bicycles that are in disrepair, so we can send over, they could use them for parts. But anyway, the weather. The weather is 50 to 80 degrees every day. That's the temperature in Malawi, Africa. 50 to 80 all year round. Okay? Now that's different, isn't it? Okay, they don't get any of that snow stuff that we get, do they? Also, it rains for 6 months, rainy season, and it's dry for 6 months. So they're trying to grow crops and work with those kind of conditions. The project has been able to secure a lot of irrigation equipment. We just loaded up $10,000 worth of irrigation equipment to send over there on our last shipment. Healthcare, there's 2 doctors and 28 nurses per 100,000 people. Religion, I stand corrected. I said 85% a little bit ago. It's 82%. The economy is basically agriculture, corn, tea, sugar cane, and nuts. The education over there is very limited. Language, mostly English. Ministry, we talked about this, 2,000 churches of Christ and 3 preacher schools. This project started some 30 years ago. It's not new. 1 person on the payroll, And then the size of Malawi, Africa is twice the size of West Virginia. Okay, I talked about the baby packs. Let's talk about food. Can you imagine putting your baby to sleep at night and the baby crying because it's hungry? I'm told by Dick Stevens and his wife are the ones that started this project. Dick is now 88 years old. But he said, Bill, there is never enough food. And I can't imagine my baby crying. Go ahead, sir.
The government of Malawi, are they receptive to this project? Do they support this?
I love your question. Very good question.
We've dealt with other countries, such as Haiti and others, where can be some potential conflict. Not really involved, but I just mentioned that as an example. Can you shed some light on it?
His question is, what is your name, by the way?
Dave?
David. I won't remember David in a little while, but I just...
Remember Browning like a shotgun, you won't forget.
His question is, how is the government receptive to the Malawi project? There's several things that comes to my mind right off as he asked that question. One, right now, Dick Stevens, who started our project, is working on the memoirs of the president of Malawi. He has stayed in her house quite a few times while being over there. They have a very good relationship. And how I know that is, when our trailer goes to the Malawi warehouse, that lock on the back of the trailer has never been taken off until it gets to that warehouse. The rapport between the Malawi project, they realized that we're not scamming people. We're not taking in materials that are expired. We're trying to do everything right. And they respect that. And they appreciate what we're doing. It was a while back I heard this clip. And I want you to imagine listening to the news and them talking about what the Church of Christ has just done. That's the kind of reputation this project has right now in Malawi. But it's even on their news broadcast, what the Malawi project is doing for the people. Very good question. Go ahead. Wait a minute, let me get back here where I can hear you. Go ahead.
Are there any other areas where the church is doing some type of thing?
Other countries or
Yeah,
Malawi? I really don't know. The question is, are there other countries that are that saturated with churches of Christ? Is that what you're thinking? I don't know. I don't know that I've ever heard of one. But Malawi, go ahead.
I help a couple places in Africa, and I always wonder if it really is a real thing, if they really are helping. And I've been doing it now for a couple of years, and it's good to know that you're getting to someone that you know you can trust.
That's a good question. Sometimes when we feel that we're helping somebody, are we really helping somebody, or are we enabling them to stay in the condition that they're in? I would say wholeheartedly, by what I'm seeing and hearing from this project, we're not enabling these people to stay in the condition they're in. We're trying to raise them up. We're trying to educate them. Another area is with their harvesting. what to do with their corn and the things after they raise them. This project is also working with them in that area. So there's several different areas where we're trying to train the people and help the people. But that's very good point. Hungry people. Not enough food. Well, the little church that I'm attending, we've got 20 or 30 people. And I said, we need to provide some food for the people in Malawi. And I suggested that we begin to collect dried beans or rice. Okay? I had one of the members come up to me and say, well, we're not going to be able to make much difference. You know, that sort of built a fire under me. Long story short, after a year's time, we had collected over a half a ton, 1,400 pounds of beans and rice. Now tell me, did that make a difference? There's another thing when it comes to children. Talking about a baby going to bed at night and crying. A lot of these children have never had candy. Now that really gets to me with a child with candy. So what did I do? What have I been doing? I go to Dollar General after a holiday. And sometimes they're hard candy. I don't get the stuff that's going to melt because of shipping and temperatures and so forth. But I get the hard candy, and sometimes it's 90% off. And I've been asked, I don't know how many times, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with that candy? Well, it's going to Africa. After Halloween, after Easter, after all the holidays, you'll see me in Dollar General watching. When's that candy going to go on sale? And then when are they going to mark that down? I almost want them to give it to me, is when I buy. But can you imagine a child never having candy? And I would love to see the day when I could go over there and actually watch them receive that candy. There was an article in the paper just around Christmas time over there that talks about these people surviving on corn mush and mangoes. And some of us might think, well, that's not so bad. But I want you to think about something. Corn mush and mangoes every day. We complain, you know where I'm going with this, about leftovers, right? After day 2, day 3 with leftovers, we're complaining. But can you imagine for long periods of time, this is what we have to eat. Corn mush and mangoes. I want to ask you a question. If you went to your kitchen right now, how many things to eat could you find? How long could we live on what's in our kitchens? And you know what? We go to our kitchen sometimes because we want something salty, or we want something sweet, or we had some taste, and that's what we're looking for. Can you imagine corn mush and mangoes every day? So when I go to shopping, I generally pick up a bag of beans every time. Or sometimes I'll go to Sam's. You can go to Sam's and buy a 25-pound bag of beans or rice for less than $1 a pound. A lot of the church people, that's what they've been doing, is going to Sam's to get the best buy. And that's what we've been collecting. Being here in Weirton, I don't know how you would do that because that would be a lot of weight transporting from here to Lafayette. Maybe it'd be best to collect money if you want to do that. But that's how we're doing it there. The next thing that brings tears to my eyes. I'm going to talk about this, and it's maybe a little delicate subject. But what does a young lady do when she's having her period? We don't think about that when we think about people in these foreign countries. They stay home. It's what they do. Well, we had a group of ladies that thought about that, and they came up with some kits. These are reusable pads. And we have ladies out there that's what they're doing. They're not making baby packs, but they're making reusable pads for the young ladies. I'm going to leave a couple of these packages up here, and I'm also going to leave the baby packs that are floating around the audience. So if you want to use them as a sample and look at them, but I'm going to leave this here, and I've got another one in the box. I'm going to leave them up here on the front row, and you ladies want to look at them and dissect them. And I'm also going to give Jim my wife's phone number, so that some of you ladies want to talk to her about some of these things. She's been just about as involved as I have been. Well, we got a few minutes left. Let's talk about tools. There's a shortage in Malawi on tools. You guys, I want you to go back and think about what it must have been like in this country working in the early 1900s. Okay, there's no electricity, no electric tools, there's no battery DeWalt drills or whatever. What are they using? What kind of tools? That's the kind of thing that we'll be collecting. The hand planes, the drills. Anybody ever use one? The drills, screwdrivers. These are the kind of tools that we're collecting to send over there.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
I've got some hand planes at the house I never used. Can I give them to you this afternoon?
You can bring them this evening. I'll have room in my car. And that's a question too, is how do we get this stuff to Lafayette, Indiana? We'll have to work on that. And while we're at it, before we close, there's so many things I want to say. There's a group of churches of Christ down around Charleston. There's 14 of them that go together and rent a U-Haul truck. They have someone in one of their congregations that is actually a missionary in Malawi. And they collect materials from these 14 churches, and they bring this U-Haul to our warehouse, loaded, and generally there's about 3 or 4 skids of materials in there. But yes, this evening, I'd be glad to take those. But we have some of these things laying around in our garages that we haven't used, and our grandfather may have had them, and they're just there. One of the men from Malawi came to our country, and I want you to listen to this. Just a minute, Ron. I remembered your name, didn't I? Yeah, I got one. This man come from Malawi, and he went to Lowe's. Here's what he said. Several years ago, a Malawian businessman visited the U.S. for the first time. In his excitement, he unknowingly highlighted the tool shortage in Malawi when he visited the tool section at a local Lowe's store. Looking at all the tools lining the aisles, he said in amazement, "There are more tools in this one store than we have in our entire capital city. Now think about that. Go ahead, Ron, go ahead. Let me get back here so I can hear. Okay, I'm going to give you a list right here, right now. And there was one flyer, I didn't have many of those on the tools, but clamps, hammers, hand saws, hatchets, levels, measuring tapes, picks, pliers, pry bars, screwdrivers, shovels, squares, you get the idea. Anything that is manual we would be glad to send. Okay, I've got about 4 minutes. 2 items I want to cover in these few minutes. Little girls' dresses is a priority. Now why? What happens in Malawi, the boys always get the first of everything. If there's pants or clothes, the little boys always get it. And I'm told that there are little girls that are running around with nothing. Now, if you send over a dress, it's not going to go to a boy. So, little girls' dresses. We have ladies that are making little girls' dresses. We've got people, if you go to Walmart, there's times that you can see on a clearance a dress for $2. I keep my eyes open. There's times that I go to Walmart. I'm not looking for shoes or dresses or whatever, but I find them, and that's when I buy. I'll buy 15, 20, 30 at a time. Little girls' dresses is a priority. My last item, and then there's just a host of things I was wanting to talk about, but medical items. We just shipped to Malawi 12 hospital beds, incubators, 8 ultrasound units, some crash machines. We had a guy from Portsmouth, Ohio, got online and saw our project and said, Dick Stevens, what can I send you? Sent him a list of medical supplies and figured, well, he'd pick out 1 or 2. This guy went to an auction in Milwaukee and brought back these 12 beds, ultrasound units, and all these things, crash machines, to send to Malawi, Africa. This guy spent $27,000. Okay, that's not the end of the story. He saw in our warehouse that we didn't have a forklift. He bought us a battery-operated forklift. And that's not the end of the story. He called back about a month later and he says, how you doing with getting those materials to Africa? And Dick told him, he says, well, we're still having the hard time coming up with the $15,000. He wrote us a check for $15,000. That's the kind of people that's out there. And then on the other side of the spectrum, I had a young lady come to me and give me a card from Goodwill for $17. She said, I returned some things to Goodwill and I want you to go and buy some things from Malawi with this card. That's just as important. The bag of beans, the $17 card, the one dress, it all makes the planes, or is that what you were bringing? It all makes a difference.
Like the lady that gave everything she had. In church.
Widow's Mite? I'll talk about her a little bit tonight. Yes. It's 10:20. Jim, I'm sorry.
Real quick, we get started on something like this. How do we get this to Charleston, or do we work with Virginia Avenue? And how do we do the logistics of this?
I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know. It's like with Chester, I come back on a regular basis to take care of mother-in-law. I generally haul it to Indiana. But we'll have to work something out. But what I pray is, here's one thing, and I'm going to close. Pray that we'll continue to have access to get these materials into Malawi. just like he was talking, it could shut off any day. Right now, the door is open. A lot of countries don't have what we have. Continue to pray for the access that we can get those trailers into Malawi. I'm going to close with that. You've been a very good audience. I appreciate it very much. And our lessons today will be on giving. So there's more to come. Thank you.